Hello and welcome. I'm Harmony Quaker, and this is the channel for the Institute for Spiritual Alignment, where we offer ongoing learning opportunities for therapists and coaches who are passionate about bridging the divide between traditional psychotherapy and coaching and spiritual transformation. In this video, we are going to be talking about how to repair our attachment system in real time when we are in an emotional activation, how to move from emotional activation into an awake, aware state where we can actually cultivate an internal repair and meet the world from our most resourced, awake self. Before we do, I want to let you know that I wrote a book for you. Align Living and Loving from the True Self is a comprehensive map of how to come back home to the truth of who you are and how to live from this deeply sacred place as you connect with the people in your life. Align is available on Amazon and barnesandnoble.com. I also created these self-guided alignment cards that are amazing for your own contemplative practice or for groups, therapy groups, parties, intimate relating. There are 48 cards in this deck, and each card has a wisdom teaching and a sentence stem to support you in living and loving from the true self. These cards are only available on my website, thespirituallyaligned.com. So when I first started working to heal my own attachment system, I was also working as a psychotherapist, supporting my clients in coming back home to their true self as they were working through their own attachment wounds. And what I learned from being in my own practice is that I could shift from an emotional trigger, from really believing my attachment wound story. I could shift from that place of contraction to an awake, aware state. And when I was able to do that, I could find my way back to repairing my system on the deepest level in real time. I believe that psychotherapy and coaching is really important for cultivating our awareness, for having a felt sense of coming back home to our true self, but that the real work of transformation happens in our life, in our relationships, when we are in an emotional activation and we find our way back to doing a different, truer thing. And so in this video, I'm going to share with you some things that I learned in that have really proven to me to be extremely useful in creating the deepest intimacy with myself and with my beloved, and also with all the people in my life. So one thing that I want to really share with you first is that when our attachment wound is activated, we are actually identified with our wound, which means that we believe that we are our wound, and we believe the narrative of that younger self where the wound had its birthplace in our system. So, for example, in my life, one of my core attachment wounds happened when I had a near-death experience as an infant where I was sort of reaching out for my caregivers and they weren't there. I was on the top bunk of a bed and I fell on my head and had a traumatic brain injury and a near-death experience. And so in my adult life, when I would reach out for my beloved, if he was distracted or not there in some capacity, traveling for work, emotionally closed off, my attachment wound would come to the surface and I would feel like I was going to die. And from that place of my inner young one, I just couldn't find my way back to my most resourced awake self. So the first step that I did to start moving through this experience was recognizing this pattern, this old story, this old narrative. It became very familiar to me and almost predictable. And I could see that my beloved wasn't the one who had dropped me or who wasn't there for me. And it's really not his job to be there for me all the time, right? That this is the old story. It sort of was stuck in my system and I needed to move through it to completion to come back to myself. And so in those moments, I would turn towards myself and I would tell my inner young one, I will never drop you. I started making this commitment to her. I will always hold you. And this was really poignant because I did drop myself often. I would leave myself to prioritize other people, to take care of other people. So, this new movement of turning towards myself and committing over and over again that I will not drop her, even though, she might not fully trust me yet because I had dropped her, but to recommitting and to really becoming a secure connection for myself was really the first step in repairing my attachment system. So where my young one wanted to look to my partner to be the reparative parent, I reparented myself. I gave myself what it is that I needed and I held myself there. So that's the very first step, holding ourselves. However, we are social beings, right? We want our relationships to be a resource. We want our partner to also be an attuned, loving presence. But the key here is that when we're hijacked by our attachment system, we have an expectation and we need this thing from our partner in order to feel like we're okay in the world. But from this place of attached to self and being a secure base for ourselves, we can ask for what we want. So I can hold myself and I can say, I will never drop you. And I can also say to my beloved, I notice that I have a need right now for your attention. Do you have the space within you to come give me some love and attention? So for my mature wise self, I can ask for what I want and I can trust that if he really is available for that, he'll give that to me. And if he's not, he can say, I actually have something else to do. I'll be back. Right. But this is where the secure connection happens between the two of us. I ask and I trust that I'm okay asking, I'm safe to ask, and he'll be able to meet that need if he's capable, and that if he's not, I'm going to be okay because I've got myself. So this is a real-time attachment healing, both internally and relationally. Both are important. I think that in this culture, it's really common for people to think I shouldn't need anything from somebody else. I should be able to give it all to myself. And in truth, creating a secure connection with ourselves is really important. It's integral into our relationship with ourselves, which is integral to our relationship with all things. However, our relationships are also really a resource for us. And as social beings, it's okay to want things from other people. However, speaking on behalf of our mature wise self and asking for what we want, trusting other people to say yes or no, is where autonomy and sovereignty happens. And this is where relationship happens, where real relationship happens. So those are the first two steps to repairing the attachment system in real time, giving ourselves the thing that it is that we really need, and then asking for what we need from our mature, wise self. Lastly, the third thing that we can do to really repair our system is to move through our emotions. So if we're really lost in the experience and we can't find our way to an awake, aware state where we can see the pattern, give ourselves what we want, ask for what we want, we can actually go and move through the experience and in the most pure, loving way, be with our pain with as much love and compassion and nonviolence as possible. It's really common for people to be antagonistic with themselves or hard on themselves when they're in their suffering, wanting to be better, not wanting to repeat this pattern. And instead of being hard on ourselves, we can choose to be loving with ourselves and actually breathe in love to the wound and really transmute the experience of our wound in the most loving way. So for myself, when would notice that I was in a deep, deep emotional activation that I couldn't find my way through, I would go to my bed and I would put a pillow between my legs and I would let myself cry and I would inhale and squeeze that pillow and exhale and let it move. And so I was just making room for my emotions to cathart. Inhale and squeeze, exhale, let it go. So I was focusing on the movement of my emotions rather than on the clinging to them or the resisting of them. I was making room for them to move. And in that, I was regulating my nervous system. I was actually finding my way back to a regulated, aware state. And this is really the essence of self responsibility. It's my job to regulate my nervous system, just like it's your job to regulate your nervous system. We can also be a co regulating presence for one another. And yet, learning how to find our way back to that aware state on our own is really, really good medicine for our own healing, to be as loving and gentle with ourselves as possible. So I would love to hear if you have any follow-up questions to how to move through an attachment activation in real time, outside of a therapy room, outside of a coaching session. And I would be honored to answer those. So just leave them in the comments. And if you would like to come check out our offerings, I have a Activate Your Alignment course if you really want to learn how to live in your alignment, and then also spiritually aligned relationships if you want to learn how to deepen into intimacy with your beloved. And then also, if you want to learn how to facilitate alignment, I have courses for you there. So the spirituallyaligned.com is where you can find more information, and I'll put the links in the comments. Blessings to you on your sacred journey, and may you have ease as you find your way back home to yourself.